The drought in Barren Valley was so severe that even the lies had cracked and withered. And my grandfather's last words to me were the greatest lie of all. He pointed a trembling, parchment-skinned finger towards the relentless sun and the dust-choked horizon. "The spring of Ibrahim," he whispered, his voice a dry rustle. "It is there, Zayan. It never truly dies. It only sleeps when our hearts grow hard. Find it, wake it." Then he was gone, and I was left with a legacy of madness. The Spring of Ibrahim was a folktale, a bedtime story parents told children before the world turned to dust. No one had seen its waters in 2 generations. Our valley lived under a perpetual blanket of fine, red dust, and our lives were measured in sips from the deep, bitter wells that were slowly turning to salt. My name is Zayan, and I was a pragmatist. I drove a water tanker for the Barren Valley Corporation, BVC, the entity that owned the wells and sold water back to us at a price that kept us in perpetual debt. My job was to navigate the wasted landscapes, delivering ration canisters to the desperate. I saw the environment as the enemy. My mission was to conquer it, to extract what we needed to survive. The concept of it being a sacred trust, an amana, would have made me laugh if my throat weren't so dry. The corruption the Quran spoke of wasn't something we caused, it was our natural state. The call to action came from an old man named Hamza, the last true believer in my grandfather's fairy tale. He lived on the edge of the valley, in a shack surrounded by a pathetic cluster of defiant, withered plants. Every time I delivered his water ration, he would chastise me. "You drive that rumbling beast, Zayan," he'd say, his eyes clear and sharp despite his age. "You spread dust and consume fuel that poisons the air. You are part of the problem." "I'm part of the solution, Uncle," I'd retort, patching a leaky pipe. "Without this beast, you'd have no water." "We had water when we listened to the earth," he'd reply cryptically. "Allah says in the Quran, and do not commit abuse on the earth, spreading corruption. You boys at the BVC, you are the greatest abusers of all." I dismissed him as another old fool, but his words were seeds planted in the barren soil of my mind. The crisis erupted when the BVC announced they would drill a new, deeper well to maximize profit in the heart of the sacred hills, the very hills where the Spring of Ibrahim was said to sleep. The community was divided. The desperate saw it as salvation. The elders, led by Hamza, saw it as a final, fatal blasphemy. "They will rupture the veins of the earth," Hamza protested at a town meeting, his voice trembling with passion. "The water that runs deep is connected. To force it out violently in one place is to kill it in another. It is fasad, corruption." The BVC manager, a slick man from the city named Rahim, laughed. "Superstition, old man. Progress requires extraction. The earth is a resource to be used." That night, I found Hamza sitting outside his shack, looking utterly defeated. For the first time, I didn't see a fool. I saw a man heartbroken by the world he was losing. "Was my grandfather a fool, Uncle?" I asked, sitting beside him. He looked at me, his gaze softening. "Your grandfather was the last of the keepers. He didn't just know where the spring was, he knew how it lived. He understood that the earth is a mosque, and every action upon it is an act of worship or desecration. The BVC, they desecrate." He told me stories I hadn't heard since childhood, that how our ancestors used to plant trees after taking wood, how they dug channels with care to avoid erosion, how they saw themselves as stewards, not masters. He spoke of the Quranic imperative to maintain balance, to walk gently upon the earth.